You're listening to the Zoe Turner podcast, business and mindset conversations that will help you move from fear and uncertainty to development and growth so that you can crush both life and business. Please welcome your host, Zoe Turner.
Hey guys, welcome to the podcast today. Today I'm speaking to a really interesting guy called Khaled Bakkora, and today we're going to be talking about Syria. What happened in Syria 10 years ago, which started as a peaceful uprising against the president of Syria, has actually turned into a full-scale civil war. This conflict has left more than 380,000 people dead. Probably a lot more than that, I'm sure, Khaled. Devastated cities, and it's drawn in other countries as well. Half of Syria's pre-war population of 22 million have actually fled their homes. About 6.7 million of those approximately are internally displaced. Many of them are living in camps within Syria, while millions, about 5.6 million, are actually registered as refugees abroad. As well as causing hundreds of thousands of deaths, more than 2.1 million civilians have suffered injuries or permanent disabilities as a result of the atrocities and the conflict that is happening over in Syria right now. Today, I'm speaking to someone firsthand who has experienced these atrocities. He's here with me today on the podcast to share some of his story, to highlight the impact that this civil war has had on his country, his people, and will have for future generations. This is going to be a really interesting podcast. So welcome to the podcast today, Khaled Bakkora.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you very much for having me.
Khaled, I can't begin to understand what it must be like to experience your own country going to war.
Mm-hmm.
Take us back to before the war started and tell us a little bit about yourself and about your life.
My name is Khaled. I'm from Syria, born and raised. I'm living in a town that is attached to the capital, Damascus. It's like Damascus suburb. It's really crowded of people, and it's directly attached to Damascus, but it's not inside Damascus as a city, as a capital. So I was just coming from, let's say, a regular family, a hardworking family. My father owned a grocery shop, and my mom used to help him with that from home. And I have three brothers, and one sister. I was just, now I'm 34 years old. I guess after 1 month I will be turning to 34 years. And in 2000 or before 2011, quickly, I was just like any regular guy. I was studying, trying to start a career, and I went to a military service. I went early actually because I was planning personally to get it done, and then I can start, with my career and focus on my studies. So any Syrian guy has to serve at that time 2 years in military service, which was not so. It was in the peacetime, but anyway, it was like the main obstacle for any Syrian guy to achieve his goal because of this sensitive, let's say, time period when you turn 18 to 20. And the whole mentality will change. Everything will change. Some people taking it as a good thing to make the guys a little bit more disciplined and focused. And some people looked at it as a humiliation because of the old fashion of like a training or the way they deal with the soldiers. But I did it as early as possible in the peacetime in 2007 to 2009. And then I went back to university, and I started my career. I was doing good. I started based on my age then, I was doing good in selling computers, cameras, and all these electronic things. And at the same time, I was studying in Damascus. So basically, I was living there. And until this Arabic Spring came around 2011, the start of 2011, we all felt here in the Arabic region, especially in the countries that you can see now suffering from the war, Libya, Yemen, and Syria and Iraq. All of them, we felt it started off in Tunisia, and then we were just watching, and we were very, very shocked, all of us, different ages, like what's happening. This is very, um, this is shocking and also well expected at the same time, which is very interesting. Living there and understanding what's happening around us, you can feel it that okay, um, this wind is coming, but at the same time, according to the past 40, 50 years, all over, you can say like it's impossible to happen because of the style of the regimes and the style of people, the lifestyle. But anyway, it happened rapidly, country by country, and
So for those
things were just
for those that don't know, Khaled, like why did the war start?
basically it started like it was like a snowball. It started off in Tunisia for the same reason, and all these nations or people around these Arabic countries who has little bit of similar economical situation, and more of the economical, it was about human rights, and so it was like the opportunity. So basically, why it happened, there was a lot of let's say wrong treatment from all these governments. For a long time, it's nothing new, but before there was no social media, there was no let's say free media or the power of phones, camera phones, and everything, and everyone was kind of waiting for anyone to start. It's like these kids playing like you start, I'll follow you, you start, and then it happened without any planning, without any organizing, and that's why we are suffering from that result now. Because it was very, very basic and random, just people going in the streets supporting, for example, other protesters in other countries. Yeah, I was saying the connection was people in Egypt and Syria and Libya were watching, for example, what's happening in Tunisia, where started, and then they were, of course, sympathizing with them. Like, yes, this is for the first time in the Arabic region for like maybe 50, 60 years. Arabic people can go to the street and protest and ask. This is like European style, let's say, or a Western style. It never happened in our land. So it was very, very exciting for these people in all these countries. And then they started to go out in their countries to support where the problem is happening in Tunisia, for example. So they will raise the Tunisia flags and they will say like, yes, we are with the people, we are against all these treatments coming from the regime, forcing people to stay home because we don't have even the government all around. They were very shocked, like they never expected that because there was no freedom of there was no base for that, no freedom of speech, no freedom for press, media, nothing at all. It's all like North Korea, you can say.
When the war started, you were at university.
Yes, actually, it was not a war. War happened started to be a war after like 1 year. And if you ask any Syrian guy now, everyone will tell you something different based on his city or his region or his political background or religion background, unfortunately. But first, it was very clear. It was just people going out of the street. Even the government itself, they admit that this happened. Yeah, people just going in the street asking for the first time freedom in general. They're not asking for better money. They're not. They're asking to have a little bit of margin in freedom. Maybe releasing the people in the prison who were, in the prison for the political reason, not crime. And then, of course, the government, all the governments, same as Syria, they responded with heavy force because they thought that this is the mentality and this is the only way. Because most of these regimes, if they release some freedom or they give something to the people, they will collapse because it's all constructed on corruption and mafia style. So there is no room for it's either 0 or 1. So actually, it was like this for the exact first 6-7 months in Syria. Now I'm talking about Syria specifically. The same model. The army is responding with very heavy force and arresting people, arresting children, killing everything. And then people are trying to protect themselves this is the turning point when people in Syria, for example, started to feel like nobody's going to help like other countries politically or military wise. They started to get very, really devastated. The number of casualties and the number of dead people arrested. So this gave the people only option to try to protect themselves, and they went to use weapons slowly because there was no support from any other country. Like what happened in Libya, for example, NATO intervened and they solved the problem. They supported the rebels. Other countries, they supported the government. It's all based on oil and a lot of political agenda. But in Syria, I don't know what happened. Nobody got intervened. It was all just statements in the media. But the first 6-7 months, nobody did anything on the ground. Nobody supported this or that. So people just started basically to protect themselves. And this is kind of the start of the war. People are fighting back and then taking control of some villages and then cities. And then the balance was, slowly 2-3 years. And then it gets really, really, really complicated. A lot of parties are coming in every year until now. The Syrian people, for example, from any background, they don't know who's fighting who and who is with who and what's what. You don't know anything. And of course, ISIS and another terrorist militias from different countries. I mean, if I can name it, I need like maybe 2 or 3 hours. It's more than 120 militias from all sides fighting each other, and it become more than war. It become just control, chaos. There is no control. It's always the map is always changing, and like you said, the people were just suffering, were just running away for their kids, for their lives, and the people want to run away, they couldn't. People who ran away, some of them they want to come back, they couldn't. Also, some of them died on the way, if it's in the sea or internally or even outside the country.
I can imagine that when you're in a situation like that, like your survival instincts are really going to kick in.
Yes.
Your instinct to survive, not only for yourself, but for your family. Do you have any personal stories that you can share, maybe about what you did to survive, or anyone close to you, what they've done to survive? Because there's a lot of Syrians have migrated, they've left, but there's a lot of Syrians that are actually still there. We'd probably expect that a lot of them possibly don't want to leave. They see it as their country, it's their home, no matter what's going on, they just want to stay.
I can say 100% all of them, they didn't want to leave. I mean, especially in this way. Like you leave without knowing that you will come back. People were traumatized, like, is this going to take months? Because, for example, in Egypt, 1, 2 years, it was kind of fixed and then stable and so on. In Libya, it took more years. And in Sudan, it's ups and down. Algeria, it's very different. But in Syria, it gets stuck. And all these people who traveled, they didn't know at all how much it will take. So they don't know even how to start their lives outside. Is it waiting? Is it starting with the plan of coming back later? Is it starting a new life, learning the language? How much they can get involved in their society? And this is away from suffering from racism in some European countries, as you hear from now and then, and some of them died, and stabbing or but this is very few. But in general, most of them, they are suffering and getting kicked out on the borders because they have to walk all the way from Turkey to Germany, walking. And all the borders are just trying to stop them like rats and beating them and not entering them, and they deal with them as animals. And it's a lot of, this aspect of immigration is, of course, really sad. But what's more sad was families getting apart in like 1, 2 days. This is what I witnessed. They don't know at all. One time your kid is here, next day you don't know he's in Turkey. After 2 months he's in Germany, and you don't have connection. And this is your kid. You cannot just basically, if he was playing in the other neighborhood and something happened, so you might not be able to see him for life, because now this party took over this and the other party took over your neighborhood, and then it will get wider and wider, and he will try to survive, you will try to survive, and then he will run away if he's lucky he didn't get killed or
Oh my
arrested from
gosh.
any party.
So your son could have
Yeah.
been visiting
So
a
this
friend
happened.
in another neighborhood, having tea or playing out with a friend,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
that neighborhood gets taken over by a certain party, which basically means that child is not going to have.
It's gone. It's gone. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's gone because and it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Every city has different situations. For example, my city, unfortunately, was one of the most, I mean, cities under heat from the very beginning, from like the first month. Some cities, they didn't, for example, suffer from the war until, 2, 3 years later or 4 years later. And some few cities, they didn't experience anything related to the war other than the economical part. But my city was 91% of the whole city destroyed completely by the UNICEF. This is an accurate number. 91 on the ground. It's more than Stalingrad.
So the house that you lived in with your parents prior to, well, I'm assuming you lived at home with your parents, is that still standing?
No. Everything was, the neighborhood completely wiped out. Completely. Like the survivals. For example, I knew that my uncle at that time, I tried to communicate with him. He died. But before that, when they bombed his house, of course, everything is random. He was just surviving in the basement, and then after the airstrike finished, he will just roam around the neighborhood, and he couldn't recognize the neighborhood. You're going to the basement after 2, 3 hours, you go out again, and you take a look. There is no corner, there is no landmarks, no trees, no cars, nothing. It's just all gray ash. That's it. You don't know where to start the neighborhood from. Like, is it left side? No buildings, nothing at all. And then, this is just one example. And yeah, they will be happy. Most of the parents, they will be very happy for the children to go out. And this is sad for the parents because they know that, for example, physically they can't travel that long, and they don't have passports. For example, if they survived somewhere, and they don't have the language, and they have this old mentality of like, this is our land and we won't leave it. It's different from kids and young generation. And it was really like intense and fast. For example, in my area, we got exposed to chemical weapons 2, 3 times. So that was something also extra. Um, and my brother got suffocated for months, and luckily he survived. And around 1,200 people just died in 9 minutes without any pain, without any blood. It's just gas. So that was exactly in my city and the other regions. This is another insane trauma inside the trauma itself. Everything you can think about, from moms losing their kids, and wives losing their husbands, and this is all 100% civilian. I want to ensure that these are civilians. For example, if there was some rebels fighting from the mountain, fighting back, so the regime will take advantage or take revenge from the whole city itself. It's like a huge punishment. And there is no comparison between the two parties in the beginning, between the rebels who could have just, like a normal guns, but for sure they don't have cannons, they don't have tanks, they don't have air force. So the destruction was insane. Uh, some cities until now, nobody's living in it. I mean, the whole city, like you're talking about 500,000 people left the whole city. It's like a ghost town. Nobody can live. It's not villages. It's a major city, and it's all destroyed completely. And some of them, if they're trying to come back, you will see the building is falling on their head after 1 year or something, because it's partially destroyed or something.
So where do they go to? You live in a city, a community within a city. 1 minute it's there, the next minute it's gone, it's totally destroyed. Where do you go?
Nowhere. Actually, it's just a complete random and chaos. Chaos. This is the best word. People will roam in the streets. They don't have their stuff with them, anything with them. Sometimes they don't have their children. Children getting stuck under the destroyed buildings. They don't know if they're alive or dead. They're roaming in the street, and then they will find any place to hide. Uh, Empty place, maybe empty house for another family who managed to leave the country, for example, or they are living together. They go to another town where the destruction didn't happen yet, so they go there, and then they will be bombing after 2, 3 months, and both families, the survivors, will go to another town. This is the internal thing.
Internal displacement. But how is that welcomed by the...
Well,
I can imagine some people might get very protective, or I don't know. Do people help each other out, or do people get really protective about what they've got?
Definitely. People help very much, and they are still helping. But again, now it's very different from 10 years ago because of the economical situation, and nobody is able really to provide even for their children, even for the people who didn't suffer from war at all. Because of the economical situation, and everything is extremely, insanely expensive. So they can't really host a family or something. Plus, it gets also more complicated because of the background religion, and who is with the regime, who's with the revolution or the movement, who's with the radical Islamic. So also a lot of people being lost or dead because of this. If you just want to survive, and you're after all, you have an ID, for example, and this ID shows that you are from this city. So if another family show you that you are from this city, the best case scenario is that they will refuse you and even talk to you. This is the best case scenario, just because you are from this city. They are afraid on their children, because they know that, okay, if you are from this city, this is a very black dot on this city. So we don't want, for example, the government or any other party to know that we are hosting people from this city, so it will get bombed. And that happened a lot all over Syria. So in the beginning, it was very, very fast. People are moving without considering these things. And again, they didn't know how much it will take. Because anytime you're expecting this will finish, like the US will intervene, um, the world community will do something, someone will resign, something will happen, but it gets stuck and there is no plan, there is no thinking, like you said, survival mode, but on the long term until now, some of it.
The United Nations states that what's happening in Syria right now, the civil war, is the worst man-made atrocity since World War II.
Yeah, and this 300 something you said dead people, I mean, it's over a million. I mean, this is registered internally by some organizations from all parties, not like from one part. But this is what they can identify the body and everything. Like this is the number, but the numbers are triple or more in all parties. The casualties, it's insane, really. And for this to happen in 2011, I mean, that was really shocking. The amount of destruction and the amount of death and horror, and it's really insane. All kinds of weapon, gas, chemical weapons, and yeah, for me, I experienced a lot. Of course, I lost a lot of family members from bombing, from random shootings, from kidnapping. A lot. I mean, uncles, grandmother. I lost my house. I lost my university. I was about to graduate, and then everything happened. I couldn't access my university because I'm from this city, and they were arresting everyone. They were looking for guys in the gym to fight with them, the government. And it it was very animalistic, if I can say. There is, you just literally survive like an animal. I mean, you don't know anything. You will get killed in for no reason almost. It's just very random. If you and the people were at that time they were thinking like, if I survive from the bombing, I will not survive from this checkpoint. If I survive from this, I will never survive, for example, next day because it's happening around the clock. Never stop. Some cities later on, you can check the timeline of map changing in Syria, who took over, and the government lost almost 80% at one time of the entire country, which is very, very huge. 80%. It's not. So you can imagine even the other fights are going in without any control from any government. There's no law, so all the problems are coming on the surface now. Maybe if two families are fighting or killing for any other reason. I mean, it's really the stealing. The people just want to survive, and there is no rule. I mean, you also can watch a lot of beautiful things happen from different religion. People, they were helping out and sacrificing themselves. So it's like the good and the bad and the ugly. Everything that defines war and the ugly war happened. And yeah, we lost a lot of friends, family members, and in very ugly ways. Some of them we couldn't identify. And that was very much, if now I want to talk a little bit personally, that was too much um, to handle at that age. So that was like really intense even. You're not talking about one incident, for example, like, okay, because now I got to know a lot of, let's say, traumatized people and, let's say, depressed and whatever. And most of them in a regular life, they will be traumatized, most of them, not all of them, from one incident, like harassment or bad treatment from family in the childhood, or even car accident or painful breakup or whatever. But for something to happen to someone in like 20, 21 years old and for a long time and in this capacity, it was really insane. Like I literally lost my mind completely. I didn't know sometimes what language I can speak.
Really?
It's just
You're at a stage where you can talk about this, but what was one of the most harrowing or difficult things that you experienced when you were out there? Is there anything that particularly stands out to you in your mind?
yeah, definitely. But it's not like I'm hiding it, but it's really not good for the listeners because it's all about the details and like a lot of. But the feelings are kind of the same. You know, between losing someone you like or you love or you're related to and losing your future, and you just feel like this is the end of the world. Because before all of this, we were living in like on the edge all the time. It was barely alive. So, I mean, for some people, of course. But when this happened, everything changed. Like you said, we turn to animals. So anything you see, it's like the sound, the fear. This is the what really shocking. The fear you can see when you see, for example, your father. You have them. You have him as a figure. You know, for I mean, I'm talking about children, not only myself when you see him as a very strong man and mom, for example, a very strong woman and independent and everything. And when you see them in that cat fear for a long time and losing their mind in front of you, this is really another trauma. They will never go back to normal. Everything changed in them because now they're not acting based on anything. They are acting just as uh, living thing who just don't want to die, for example.
How does that fear manifest itself?
It is very. You can see the fear of the parents on their kids and children and relatives. I mean, before that, you can see now in the street if a mom is walking with her son or daughter, if she just stumbled on something and fell down, normally she will, run and maybe get in a bad mood for one day or something. So imagine that in all that bombing, or I saw a mom just grabbing just a hand of her daughter, just a hand. She recognized her from the hand. That's it. There's no daughter, just a hand. And the other one is like half body or burned out or under chemical dying in front of you. I mean, moms were, that was also shocking. I saw moms in hospitals uh, watching their kids just dying without knowing what's the cause. People are just uh, getting shocked, shocked because of the gas. They don't know that there is a gas. And then the mom will die after like 1 hour. And it's all like very fantasy. Like there is no blood, no bombing, no nothing. We just heard some sound. And uh, some people, some people were saying that, okay, this is gas. And some people didn't know what is gas even because you're talking about farmers and very simple people. So actually, nobody knew that. Okay, for this certain gas, you should, for example, climb up because this gas stick in the ground. It's a low level thing. So instead of that, they got used from the regular bombing. So they killed themselves in a huge number without knowing. I mean, some people who were studying, they were just climbing trees like monkeys and or going on the roof of some building. But the other were telling them, no, go down, it's gas, and or they will see you the sniper. I mean, wherever you go, it's just horrific. And to see that, for me, the most shocking, if I want to say, is seeing children wrapped up like candies in this white sheet without any blood. And I mean, from that point, this changed the whole perception for me in life and religion and country and nationalism and everything. Like the huge amount. It's just like a pack of candy. See, it's endless. You can see hundreds of old children just wrapped up and they are dead in like 10 minutes. And this this thing, I don't know how to describe it. It's really, I mean, now I'm talking about it and I have chills. I remember the smell, I remember the scene, the and I was afraid from the moms coming in to check. I mean, I didn't want to see this, and at the same time, I couldn't stop them, and it's just so complicated. So a lot of these, this is, I'm just picking some small, incidents here and there, but it's ongoing. This war machine never stopped. Some cities after 6, 7 years, it stopped. Some people lost everything, and then they got back to the government side, for example, or ISIS, what they did, also beheading and all of these things. It's completely insane. Luckily, in our region, where I am from, ISIS was not there, so that's maybe the only good thing. But yeah, I mean, I can't really describe more, um, because it's really really horrific, and you don't have time to process all of this. I mean, if you saw this scene, for example, you might need 1 month, maybe, you just to absorb it, especially if you're young and everything. But of course, the next day something horrific will happen, so you'll forget about this. And here we come to what happened to me later on after 6, 7 years. I thought I was fine. I came to Dubai. I'm on top of my career. Everything is fine. I started uh, to continue my education. Everything was fine. I thought it was fine. But once I had a time, or once I had a room in my mind to think about something, all these things came up to the surface, and I collapsed completely. I was hospitalized for like 1 month and a half. Nobody knew what's happening to me. And until some doctor, explained to me that you were on survival mode for 7, 8 years, until you got a little bit stable, the basics, like, okay, you have a home, you're safe, you're not gonna get killed, and you have, for example, a small income. You know that if you are hungry, you will eat, and you will sleep safely and everything. Once your mind had a small room, all these suppressed things came out, and suddenly it was like flashbacks and nightmares, and 2, 3 weeks and shaking, and I had seizures, and everything could trigger it. And the main seizure I had was from the fireworks here. I mean, in 2018, here I was sitting here in Marina, seeing the fireworks, and I had a seizure. I didn't know. I thought like I'm having a cold or whatever, and the ambulance came, and I started the hospital trip for like 1 month and a half, and the whole nerve system was completely snapped. And I realized that no, this needs proper treatment and the long term treatment, and this is not funny at all, and and this is pretty serious, because I thought at that time, or before that time, that okay, it's the past, and I have some kind of personality to make fun of everything, the sarcastic, and accepting everything, because I went through all of this. I appreciate life more in all aspects. So you will see me at work and between my friends. I'm the joker. I'm like very easygoing. Whatever you want, whatever you feel like, let's do. I'm not needy at all. Any food, any things, and people are getting sometimes surprised, like, how are you okay with this thing, for example? How are you okay with this food, or how are you okay with this delay of, I don't know, shipment or whatever? And I'm until now like, oh, it's okay. It's amazing that I'm waking up now. I can't believe that I am who I am now. Even if, let's say, um, I'm selling cigarettes on the signals now, it's just so beautiful. Because at
Yeah.
that time, before, I never thought ever that I will go out alive. I got stuck for 2 years there, all 2011 and 2012.
When did you leave
Different
Syria?
feelings. 2013, the first of the beginning of 2013. I came here with the jeans. and that's it.
How easy was it for you to leave?
Again, I was like any other people waiting for something to happen. Like, okay, this is crazy, but let's wait. Maybe it will settle down, something. I wanted to leave honestly from the beginning because I knew how much ugly it can get. But again, responsibility, family, and everything. All my brothers are very very young at that time. So I tried really to stay, but after 2 years, I got stuck outside the country, outside the city itself. So I couldn't even go back to see my family. I was stuck in Damascus, and then it was just like 12 kilometers away, and I couldn't go back. Suddenly, my city was under siege, and no electricity, no water for 6 years straight. Nothing. People eating from garbage, people eating dead animals who died from hunger. It was really, that's another also trauma. So I got stuck there with no place to live. And then I was just thinking like, okay, I cannot go back and to my family or my town, even though if it's destroyed or something, because I need to communicate. I don't have a home in Damascus. I don't have anything. So I was barely surviving. And then I had a friend who was living in Dubai, and he helped me by buying the visa and the ticket and everything. And I came here with just my jeans. I didn't have any luggage, nothing at all. I had $70 in my pocket. So he bought me all food and clothes and everything for a long time. And I was very afraid to go out from any room for maybe 1, 2 months. And, they wanted to try to take me to the malls. And, but I was completely still, it was very intense at the end. I started from that time, 2013 until now. It's ups and downs. I mean, mentally, um, whenever you try to, or whenever I try to go out from it, it gives me motivation. Yes, like okay, I survived this, so I must be some resilient or stable or something to do more. And as I told you, because I appreciate life, so it's I have a different perspective. It means that I can accept any kind of situation.
That is one positive,
Yes,
because
yes,
in Dubai,
definitely it is. Yeah,
you know yourself, living
yeah,
in
and
Dubai, there's so many people are expectant out here and banging the horns because they can't be bothered walking into a restaurant to make an order, and they just complain about everything.
oh my God,
Everything's a
yeah,
phone call
that's
away. But
yeah.
after what you've been through, you're going to appreciate every little thing. Every
Yes,
little
yes,
thing.
definitely. And the trauma actually also continues. Some of them stuck with me, not by nightmares and seizures and depression or whatever. When I was out from Syria, I lost my communication with my family for 6 years. I mean, that's another thing. So I had to check every single night, checking the news, using the phone before bed, checking the Facebook page who are posting who is dead and alive in this city. That was my only source of information.
So how come, if you were able to check Facebook and if they were able to upload on Facebook, how come you weren't able to communicate with them any other
it's not
way?
them. It's not them. There was like activist people in this city. This city was under siege, as I told you, complete siege for 6.5 years exactly. No food, nothing comes in, nothing goes out, no people going inside and out, no electricity, no water. It's just nothing. They of course, my family didn't have any of this, but some activists who can come and go around the border, they were reporting to all these news agencies around the world, AFP and other agencies. So for me, it was my only source of information to check. They post the names every day on 11 p.m. our time here. They post like, okay, today this happened, and they attach the pictures. Those people dead every single day, around 100 something dead every single day. So that was for me also very it's ongoing process. I'm working. I'm expecting a call anytime in 6 years. 6 years. I'm expecting bad news anytime in 6 years. I feel guilty when I just make cup of tea. I feel guilty when I have a breakfast. I feel guilty when I cover myself to go to sleep. Like this is extra soft. What about my family? This guilt all this, and this is ongoing. It affects my relationship with my friends. For example, I was skipping a lot of going out and events, and I didn't want to, but I can't. I felt like I will have a glitch there if I go, because I can't keep my mind off. And I started to try to heal with many different things, which is just basically accepting what's happening or what happened. And I tried a lot of things, and some things worked and some other things didn't. And I don't know what worked because I tried everything. I went to yoga and meditation. I went to extreme sports. It was, I think, part of physical anger. I went to do these crazy Spartan race and Tough Mudder with this huge obstacles and fire and electricity shock and ice water, jumping, climbing, all the mud. And I'm not an athlete. I mean, I was just playing football before, but it turns out that I'm like an animal in these races. I don't stop. I don't take it easy at all. I'm forcing myself to be very physically and mentally exhausted so I can sleep. Lately, I was, like in the top 10 between like 1,000 something. I'm watching myself on the camera on the GoPro, like, oh my God, is this me? It's like, oh, the motivation. It's not self-harming, just to point out, but mentally, you want something different. I mean, most of these people who suffered, let's say, especially if they were soldiers or something, they will go either way, either to drugs and alcohol heavy consumption, which is the same result, like taking your mind really off and your physique, or this kind of thing, which is, of course, the good things, let's say sport, or different from, of course, one person to another.
Tiring yourself out,
Mm.
there is a lot to say for that, and it really does help. It does help kind of, I think it masks pain. I'm not saying that we shouldn't exercise, because I think in terms of healing, it needs to be a bit of everything. You can't just do one thing
Yes.
or do this Spartan race that time. It has to be consistently, little and often. But I know from having an endurance background myself and knowing a lot of endurance athletes and having read up on it a lot, that literally when you have got a lot going on in your mind or you've experienced a lot of trauma, just physically tiring yourself out, you're getting all those endorphins, which are absolutely amazing, that you get when you exercise. But you haven't. But when your head hits the pillow on a night, which I guess for someone who's been through so much pain and trauma like you, it's during those moments of silence and stillness when I expect that memories are going to come flooding and you're going to start thinking about what's happened. But if you've had a hard day on the assault course, going hard at it, you're not going to think of any of those things. You're going to be out for the count as soon as your head hits the pillow. So I do think it serves a purpose, definitely.
But
it's masking. It's masking your pain.
Yes, exactly.
It helps, but it's masking.
So it will maybe come to the surface again, and I'm trying to be prepared every time. I got many hits. But the most difficult problem is to start doing anything. When you are in this position, for example, before starting, let's say, yoga or starting any exercise or anything, even if it's painting or something, if you are on this level, you don't have the stamina or the will to do anything at all. It's like some huge mountain sitting on you, stopping you from even going to eat. That's the major challenge. And this could be taking years for some people, or months, or even with all this motivation. Or I mean, it was crazy. I mean, for me, I think this is the most difficult part. Now I can throw myself into the fire. I can jump from I don't know, skyscraper. But if I am at that time, I remember that if you put $1 million, and I don't have a 50 dirhams at that time for one McDonald's meal. I don't have it. And if you put $1 million in front of me, I will not move. I mean, I was at that level of darkness, and not I don't want to do anything, because I feel that like how the earth is still moving after these things happen, how everyone is going to work, and people are calling in all over the world. I'm not talking about Syria, or you know. So it was really hard to start. Sometimes it's like also quitting smoking or something. Of course, no comparison, but I mean, the style is like, okay, you start 1-2 days, then you get back, then it's all the time fighting. The same thing with my mental health. It happened many times. I was falling like really hard, and I got stuck in the bed like 1-2 months, and I didn't want to see anybody. Sometimes I started and I stopped after 6 months, not by myself, another trauma or another bad news. It's just someone is pulling you back, and you're pulling yourself in the front. And until actually from last year until now, for the first time maybe in my life, I feel stable, and I feel very good. And I feel that it's a next level of acceptance. And um, I mean, I'm trying still. Of course, I'm not healed 100%, but I think because I started to gain what I started here in Dubai in terms of my career, my education. I finished my master's degree. I went very aggressive to living life here. So I was kind of very competitive with myself. Like, I should be very, very good in everything. So in sport, I was doing great. In health wise, I turned to vegan after 2 years, and I started to achieve my fitness goals. And this is all without any motivation, nothing. It's part of keeping myself busy, but at the same time, not with wasting time. For example, video games, or having holidays, or chilling only on the beach, which is not wrong at all. But I'm what I'm saying is that this is, or this was a huge motivation for me. I did great in school also after I got my master, and hopefully next year I will start my doctorate. I'll start my PhD. And in my career also, I got promoted many times, and I worked in very big companies. Now I'm moving to another job just next month.
How did you actually really get back on your feet? Because you've got a good job.
That took,
You're also doing
yeah.
a lot of freelancing in photography. You've really built up a good name for yourself, and you're talking about your story a lot more, which again may be part of the healing process for you.
Yeah, everything. I mean, helped. How I did it, again, there is no one specific thing, but the main point for me was that I realized that now, okay, I'm by myself. I don't have any backup. I don't have any relatives, for example, living in Canada, or living in Germany, or whatever. And plus, I have to be responsible for 3 families in Syria, sending them money every month. And so it, there was no option at all. If I didn't send, they will literally die. It's not supporting, it's full responsibility, around 20 people. So that was very heavy, and I didn't get a job until like 2 years and a half.
Really?
From 2000. Yeah.
Wow, so you lived here
Because
for
the
2.5 years without work. And how
yeah,
did
yeah.
you survive? How did you eat and live?
Yeah, that was support from my friends and the photography. That was the main reason why I started photography, to be able to to do some freelancing jobs, shooting birthday parties and small conferences or whatever, and started to teach myself using YouTube and other social media, because a proper job I couldn't get because I'm Syrian. I mean, at that time there was no it was not so easy for the visa, for
Sorry for
example.
interrupting. There's
So
something's
that's
just
another.
IT background. So that helped me also here fixing phones, fixing computers. I learned all that in Nigeria
I guess
as
so.
a career.
So for 2.5 years,
So that helped me also to
you didn't
start.
have a proper job, but you hustled basically because you've got skills in photography and IT, and you
Yes,
just made money in other ways. Yeah,
yes,
awesome.
yes. Because I was staying at my friend's place, so I didn't really have to pay much. Just I was concerned about the families that I'm responsible for and my own food, for example. And many times I couldn't, and they helped me for a long time. And even if when I got proper job, it was very, very low quality job. It was like salary of 2,000, 2,500. I mean, but I had to start somewhere because I came here again. I don't have any documents from the education, like I finished, so everything was against me. I came here, of course, legally and everything, passport normal, and I didn't uh, run away or refugee without any passport. But I mean, education or experience, I had a lot of papers and everything, but it was all gone with the house and other things. So I had to literally start over like I'm a kid now, like from zero. I don't know anything, and my English, I never studied English. It was all coming from movies and some interest in music. So I started to, literally from below zero, you can say, in everything. And photography was good for me. And then I started to teach photography and started to be a little bit popular, getting more like interviews about. It's all about photography in the UAE and outside. I got published in magazines and newspapers. I had more than 25 exhibitions around the world in Las Vegas, London, Tokyo, Barcelona, Madrid, many different countries. And I couldn't also go there to any of them because I'm from Syria also, so no visa there. So but I mean, something was um, helping, helping me, of course, with starting, but it was very rough start until, as I told you, the last 4 years, 3 years, it started to be okay. Like, okay, decent job, decent income, and I'm living by myself. I don't have any debt. I paid back everything to all people who helped me, and I have a car. I, and then I collapsed. When this happened, I collapsed physically and mentally. Before I was very like nothing happened. I tell people in a very funny way, this happened, yes, and I saw this happened to me, and they were like, oh my god, how are you smiling and laughing when you're talking about this? Because I didn't know myself even then. It was for me like it's a big lie, even if I lived it, but it was like a drama or a TV show or something. But once I was a little bit stable, everything collapsed, and then I knew that okay, this needs a proper treatment.
So
And here I am now.
how has your experience helped you navigate like personal relationships with friendship, partners, more intimate relationships, having a girlfriend?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
has it impacted on that?
Actually, it's very difficult in the beginning um, for friends or for a partner or anything because if they hear that I went through this, especially the other nationalities, they will try to keep distance because it means to them, most of them, that you're messed up in the head, or you're crazy, or I don't want to deal with this, or they will think that I'm for example, not doing anything in my life, just weeping and crying, which is not, I mean, true, of course, but it's tricky. At the same time, I was being also more selective myself, to pick up the people that I want to be around, the artists, or even other careers. It doesn't matter, but about the character. So uh, it was good and a bad at the same time. But once people knows that I am who I am, I don't start off with my story like this, because definitely will scare them.
There's lots of fireworks in Dubai as well, right? Especially living in the marina. You couldn't have picked a better place. And
Yeah, if a kid is walking around and he popped up a balloon or chips or anything, I might go on the ground. Yeah, anything. It gives me the feeling of like I want to know where is this sound coming from. Until I do, I would be very scared. Even at night, if I'm working and I heard something, sometimes I smell gas with no gas here, because I was also surviving from houses that filled up with gas, not the chemical weapons, but from bombing or houses under fire. I jumped off the second floor. I broke my leg. That's a lot of fear from everything. You will feel the whole planet is fighting, all the creatures, animals, humans. So it takes a lot of time, actually. Yeah, time is a key, but how much you can wait, that's the thing, without collapsing or doing wrong things to your body or to your mental. That's the main key.
do you have any routines? Given what's happened, and anyone in life, I think, needs to have a good routine to make sure that they're mentally stable. And, I think we've all got crazy tendencies in a way. I'm not underestimating what any trauma anybody's been through or anything like that. But I think all of us, in order to stay on form mentally, we need to establish a good routine. Do you make sure that your routine, given your past and maybe your ability to relive your past and to go back into that, are you more rigid about your routine? About eating well, about doing exercise daily, breath work, all of these things, these little things that if we do them daily has a very important, a positive impact on our mental health.
Well, to be honest, after, I was losing weight and losing my mental health when I came to Dubai, all the way like 6-7 years until 2018, until that incident I told you about. So before that, I was not in any routine. My routine was without me, of course, realizing, and I'm understanding now. My routine was to survive and to make a good life and to be able to support family and not to swim to Europe or, for example, many different things to start my education and everything. But it was not healthy on my body or I was not eating well without me knowing also. So I was like 58 kg and I'm 180 centimeters. I was insanely slim. Then after this hospital and everything, I really realized how much it's important, and I changed my diet and I went to regular exercise and everything. And I gained like 20 kg in 1 year. It's like all muscles and so I was very happy to see this fast results. And since then, I'm following this routine of like whatever I get busy with, for example, my food, the quality of food, the amount of food, and the exercise. This is like very important. So now I do cycling, football, extreme sport, running, and regular gym. And at the same time, I maintain my my exercise. That's good. I can't say it's routine, like, from 8 to 9 or something, because my life is very uh, dynamic. I have a daily job and I'm a photographer. So part of the routine, if I want to say, is the love of creating things. I love to create things. For photography or small videos I started, or I like to document things, and it takes time from me. I started my YouTube channel to teach photography in a funny way for Arabic, just like last month.
Awesome.
And this also needs a lot of time, since I'm doing the whole thing from filming, editing, script, and so I'm always super occupied all the time,
I get you.
which is good.
All these
Yeah.
things are like a full-time job within themselves. It's like my podcast, when
Yeah.
you're responsible for the for the preparation, the production, and the post-production as well. Oh my gosh, there's so much work.
This is really,
so much work that goes into all these things.
Especially because I'm not a professional in this. Okay, I'm a photographer, but this is the different thing, video and video editing. So I have to learn new things every day, and I have to maintain now. And YouTube is just like 5% of my activities only. My job also is very serious. I do digital marketing for a huge company, a big group. I handle many different accounts with huge campaigns, and it drains me off, after or working 8 hours. I mean, it's insane. I come like 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I don't want to do anything, but but then I have to start the other half of the day, which is exercising, creating things, photo sessions, concepts, participating in exhibitions, and meeting friends, and being in a relationship. Also, that's another responsibility. So yeah, it's really very dynamic now.
And are you in contact with your parents now? You're in contact with your family?
Yes,
now they must be very proud of you, of what you've achieved.
Actually they are, but that's another problem. I mean, mentally for me, like, I can't tell them.
I'm in communication with them, but it's very, uh, very low key. I keep it like this because um, there's a huge contrast between my lifestyle, for example, here, and their lifestyle. So it's sad that I can't tell them how good I am doing here, even though they're asking all the time, and and the great things that any parent would like to hear from their child is, graduating and doing great in his career, or in sport, or anything, or getting famous, or getting interviews, or anything. But for me, I'm always trying to filter very much, even about food. Sometimes, we Arabs like food very much, essential. So, for example,
Is
instead of
English like
asking how
food
are
as
you,
well?
good morning. Yeah, of course, yeah. But I mean, for us, yeah, for us, instead of saying how are you, how you doing, for example, to your parents, or parents to you, they would say, what did you eat today,
Yeah.
or what did
What
you
did you
have
have for your
for,
tea?
like,
Yeah.
yeah. So for me, a lot of time, I cannot tell them. I don't tell them.
You feel
I
a bit
intend not
guilty.
to share with them. Yes, all the time. So I'm just keeping it very low.
I get that about the
Yeah.
food, but surely about the fact that you're doing so well with your photography, and the fact that you're sending money home kind of alludes to the fact that they know you're successful anyway. But isn't it this information that's going to keep them motivated and keep them happy, rather than make them feel? I just don't quite understand why you're keeping that information from them, because as parents, that's what you would want to know.
I'm sharing with them, but it's, for me, again, it's sad for me when I realize every minute that they are, for example, still struggling with the basic food, or electricity, or warmth in the winter. So I share with them, but it's just headlines. Even if they insist, sometimes they insist on something, I'm telling them, like, everything is fine, everything is good, my job is good, but I don't tell them getting promoted, or I got this exhibition here, or yeah, because they will feel good, of course, but at the same time, it's mixed feeling. I thought about this a lot of times. It's mixed, like, if the best case scenario, in my opinion, they will feel great and proud and everything, but at the same time, they will feel as much as sad that why they can't witness this and why, it will take them to the dark side.
Mm.
Like, we lived for this and you're doing all of this, but we don't see it, or we cannot share the joy with you. We cannot share our appreciation or pride or whatever. So that is also very important to be considered. It's an ongoing problem, actually. Mentally, it's ongoing. What to share, what to say, what not to say.
Yeah.
It's like you're dealing with different people. It's really, really not easy at all. Every time, even if they're doing, for example, better than before themselves, and you know that, okay, this money is helping them, but the gap is very, very huge. I mean, you can't just talk to them as regular parents. Like, hi, how are you? Everything is different. The time is different. The trauma is different. If I am traumatized, imagine them. I mean, they're 10 years there and they saw all of this, and that's unbelievable.
Yeah. We were talking about earlier how in these situations it can either bring out the best in people or it can bring out the worst in somebody. And you've probably seen that come out in both cases. But let's talk about, is there anything that stood out from you that you can remember that's really opened your heart, in a situation when you've been in where your whole world and your whole life and families, communities, cities, everything's been torn apart, but you kind of see acts of kindness and love? Is there anything that you can, any particular incident that you can remember that stands out to you?
Actually, no, it's just, I think it's the combination of all of these huge emotions and feelings and experiences. It gives me the feeling that everything is so fragile. And especially when I see, for example, arrogant people, or, some, and I remember everything, and I say just, everything can go away in a second, like car accident, not necessarily war or whatever. So this one, it makes you like hanging on to life in general, which means kindness and trying to help people out, because you understand more what suffering is, for example. So I started to adopt cats. Also, I have two cats, and both of them are sick. I search for them. I heal them. I take care of them mentally, traumatized, or physically also. And I feel something, really. I don't know if this is because I lost people, so I feel like I have to feel that I'm doing something to keep something alive, because I failed of keeping some other humans alive. I don't know. It's just, but this is coming naturally. I just feel like, and I was afraid of cats, for example, very afraid, like some people. But suddenly, like, I'm very experienced in cats. My house is like cat house. I have two beautiful cats, and I healed another one. And yeah, so it's there's no one incident. The whole thing, and the interesting part is I'm still um, forming these emotions and ideas and practices. It's not like solid until now. Everything is dynamic. Seeing myself, for example, getting older only for age or different experiences. What I'm doing in my education and in my art and in my career and to my family. Also, this all changing for the good. I think everything is very, very good. I love all people. And it gets you very leveled up. For example, for racism or uh, understanding any different point of view, and you feel it. It's pure. It's not like because you're well educated or this is not nice to say. This is coming from the heart, because what I experienced was just very raw, very pure, just human dying for no reason at all. So That's why I see everything around me like this, very raw, pure, naked. There is no the abstract, feeling that you're human, I'm human. We didn't choose to be any kind or any skin color or any religion. Nobody choose nothing. It's just as it is. So every problem is coming from dealing with this fact that I am better or I should be better, or from the small scale to the bigger scale. So constantly thinking about this and going back to the roots, that how people are dying randomly and no reason, and the children especially, it's so powerful, and the moms and the concept of losing very very best friends and family members. And so yeah, this one gives you a lot of love power to everything, to nature, to people, and to objects even.
I think you've answered this question a lot, but I would like to ask it to you outright. I mean, what are you grateful for in this moment? What are you grateful for right now?
I'm really grateful for books
For
and
books.
music.
Books.
Books and music. There is, if I wasn't reading a little bit before the war, and I was not involved emotionally to music as a listener and to art in general, I would definitely lose it, and I don't think I will survive, because I felt that, especially books, I was very much interested, and until now, in reading politics, history. So for me, it was with all these shocking things, but it was understandable somehow. Even I'm very young, but I was dealing with it like a 70 years old professor. Like, yeah, yeah, okay, the nations comes and the revolution and everything is changing and the mentality, and I was dealing with it in the back of my mind with wisdom, without me being wise. But I just had a great background on all interesting history events, and which is all repeating itself somehow. So that helped me a lot. I realized this recently. And the music about releasing emotion. Sometimes with all this crazy input coming to your mind and visual and everything, sometimes even with a conversation like this or with a friend, you can't really express. But listening to some specific music, for me, it helped really, like a therapy. It's not relaxing music or music with lyrics or something very specific, but very deep, and I feel like it's really connected with me on this level. I feel like I can release my trauma or talking, or somebody's listening. So that was really, I'm really grateful for these two things to exist.
Awesome. Yeah. I love to read, and I try and read a little every day. It doesn't always happen. But in terms of even if it's just 5-10 pages a day, it
Yeah, yeah,
can kind of shift your mindset, can't it? Just by
100%.
reading that little bit can shift your mindset. And our mind is like a branch. So, it's all in association. So just reading little things that maybe inspire you or interest you, that's going to link on to other things and other things. And it's breaking our thought processes. Have you heard of a gentleman called Eckhart? I always pronounce his name wrong, but he's called Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle?
No.
Okay. So he's a very famous, I believe he's a psychologist, and he has a very simple strategy. I felt that I was experiencing a few problems mentally. I would use this strategy a lot, and all he would say was next thought. So when you're thinking about maybe something that's going to impact on you or something negative, he would just say next thought, because you're breaking the thought pattern. So
He can
you just say next thought.
Skill,
yeah, and it's something really simple, but oh my gosh, really, really effective. Yeah, it's fantastic that, music, books, animals, I think cats dogs, any animals are so wonderful in terms of opening up your heart and healing you.
Yes.
And I can imagine that these cats are doing as much for you as you're doing for them. You know, you're saving them and you're rescuing them, but in a way they're probably rescuing you too.
Definitely, 100%. Yes, 100%.
I love it how animals just open up your heart so much. Do you ever envisage you returning back to Syria to live? Is that something that you...
No. I don't want at all. Like whatever happens, and if it's like a future city extremely safe, I cannot. It's just too much for me. I don't want anything related to this.
So when the
I'm not attached.
when the war ends, would you feel safe to return, to visit, to see family?
I don't want to. I can tell you very, being very sure that not because I'm scared or something, but the only good things were in my country were completely destroyed and gone. That's it. There is nothing left.
How would you see your parents again? Do they have passports? Would they be able to visit you?
It's hard, really hard. It's really hard. Yeah, we can maybe try in different situations to go to another country if because the situation, as I told you, the map is changing. So if something happened that they can go out to, for example, to Lebanon, and I can go there, this will be like okay, have a solution for a visit. But me going back to Syria, mentally, I don't think it's a good idea, even after 200 years. This thing is done. Um, it's it's overwhelming, really. It's even if I see it, I think in a good situation after 50 years, it will be still traumatizing to see it like this. And because you will always, your mind will take it like, why it's like this in this generation and our generation was like, So for me, I just deal with the fact that I have no country. UAE is my home now, and I'm dealing with it based on that. And whatever the future brings, I'm ready. Hopefully, that's what keeps me calm because I worked on my education and my career and everything. So I don't have fear of being, for example, living in any country around the world. I know that I can start over, and I know my ways, and I have career, I have everything, and I am okay with working anything to just exist. I don't have demands or like I want to be this and that and that. I have, of course, ambition and goals, but what I'm saying is I'm flexible. I can be okay with most of people who can't be okay, I guess, in general.
But what would you say was the biggest lesson that you've taken away from your experiences?
Biggest lesson is I don't know. We have a saying in the Arabic country. Um, it says something like this: like the more you see, the hardest you can speak. I mean, so it's the same here. It's different experiences. It's not one experience. So I can't really get one lesson or something, but um, I can say the lesson is appreciating everything. Um, that's that I learned even though I was like this before the war, but of course not that much, and I couldn't know because I was very young, of course, before. But I can see a lot of people in different, for example, range or nationalities or religion or anything. It doesn't matter, but I can see them that uh, the hunger of achieving their goals is forbidding them from appreciating very good things around them. for example, when I see my any friend talking to his family, it's very uh, good feeling for me. Like I envy them, for example, especially in these 6 years where I didn't have a contact. And at the same time, it's very sad for me. And I mean, I feel jealous. I go out from the room nicely without telling anybody. That was when I had this connection with them. But at the same time, I feel like why he's talking to his mom. I mean, only one time per week. If I had a connection, I would, be feeling like. And some people are living here, for example, and their parents are in another emirate, and they don't visit them often or something. So yeah, these things of appreciating, just thinking about everything around you that it might go away any moment. This is not negative thinking, but this is actually the start of uh, enjoying things better, away from the trauma and everything. I enjoy the cup of tea because I know how to feel without it for a long time. I enjoy using the computer because I know, I enjoy the electricity. I feel it in my blood. Okay, I'm not crazy, but I mean, this thought gets to my head sometimes that, wow, this is the beach and beautiful people around. Amazing. I have a beautiful fish. Like, look at this cat. It's just amazing. It's not like, okay, cat in the street. Everything is amazing. You will be overwhelmed. Everything, details, diversity, colors, um, everything is wow. I mean, ongoing. So yeah, the lesson for me was appreciating everything, trying to, yeah. And once I think any people, even if they're not traumatized, they started to try to appreciate something more, they will go on it more. They will feel different things.
That you said that you'd like to make a Netflix series. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you would like or what you envisage?
Actually, yes, I am still working on it. I didn't get lucky yet. Basically, it's part of the healing and part of me being involved in art as a photographer and creating photographs and videos, but also as a viewer. I'm very much into cinema um, and TV and drama in general. So I just thought part of healing um, that I can share my story in a different way, in an artistic way, not necessarily to be documentary. For example, I sit there and I say what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Something as just a story, because it had um, all the factors of good story. It has love story, family connection, religion, changing faith, and losing country. Not only the bad things. There was a lot of also, good things. I met very beautiful, powerful people, and I got to uh, rethink about some people whom I was living normally before the war, but in the war, they changed in a good way or a bad way, because it's different. It's very, very rich, I think, and it will make a great content. And it can, as I see it, it can be a good project. So yeah, I'm aiming to make it internationally.
When I first heard your story, I said to you that it sounded very much to me like it was, like with the Holocaust. It was years later, after the end of World War II, that the atrocities and the horrors actually really came to light. And I think it's very similar with what's going on in Syria right now, that it's going to be, there's still so much that's untold. There's still so many stories that are untold because they're still living it right now. So it's going to be quite some time, I think, before, I think we're going to be hearing a lot of horror stories
Yes,
in the future
definitely.
about what has truly gone on.
Yeah, because also unlike World War II, for example, now we have social media, even if it's not out, but a lot of people, almost everyone documented everything. It's not out yet or something, yes, but people Syrian people around the world are filled with stories and details. And with the media age and the sharing age, a lot of things will come out. Some of them already are out from all parties, and I'm talking about the human side, not political or anything else, but definitely will be huge concept.
Okay, Khaled, thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest and for giving us so much of your time today. And it's been wonderful to share your story, and I look forward to watching that on Netflix in the future.